Most people think memory is about repetition. Read it again, highlight it again, repeat it again. That is not memory. That is slow suffering. Meanwhile, experts memorize entire textbooks, languages, legal codes, and medical procedures faster than you memorize a grocery list. Medical residents memorize thousands of drug interactions. Chess grandmasters recall thousands of board positions instantly. Memory champions memorize hundreds of numbers in minutes. Do they have better brains? No. Same brain, same neurons, same 3-pound meat computer inside your skull. The difference? They see something your brain ignores. A hidden shortcut, a neural pattern trick. Once you understand this, memorization becomes dramatically easier. Faster, cleaner, almost unfair. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how experts compress massive amounts of information into a few simple patterns. And once you see it, you will never try to memorize things the old way again. Chapter 1, the brain does not remember information. It remembers patterns. Here is the problem. Most people try to memorize raw data. Dates, facts, lists, definitions. Your brain hates this because your brain was not designed to store isolated information. It evolved to detect patterns in chaos. Hunter-gatherers did not memorize random numbers. They memorized patterns in animal tracks. They recognized patterns in seasons. They remembered patterns in dangerous plants. Pattern recognition is the brain's natural superpower. And experts exploit this. Psychologist Adrian de Groot discovered this while studying chess masters. He showed both beginners and grandmasters a chessboard for 5 seconds. Then he asked them to recreate the board from memory. Beginners remembered about 4 pieces. Grandmasters remembered more than 20. Photographic memory? No, because when the pieces were arranged randomly, grandmasters performed just as badly as beginners. Why? Because the pattern disappeared. Chess masters were not memorizing pieces. They were recognizing strategic patterns. Instead of remembering 20 individual pieces, their brain saw one familiar situation, one compressed memory, one neural package. Your brain does the same thing with faces. You do not memorize every detail of a face. You recognize the pattern instantly. This is called chunking in cognitive psychology. Instead of storing information separately, the brain compresses it into larger units. Phone numbers are easier when grouped. Instead of 10 numbers, you remember 3 chunks. Experts apply this principle everywhere. Doctors do not memorize symptoms individually. They memorize disease patterns. Programmers do not memorize thousands of commands. They memorize system logic patterns. Musicians do not memorize individual notes. They memorize chord structures. Same brain, different strategy. But here is the problem though. Even if you understand patterns, your brain still forgets quickly. Because compression alone is not enough. Experts use a second trick. Chapter 2. Experts train their brain to detect neural templates. Most people study like this. Read chapter, highlight sentences. Reread notes, feels productive, feels smart. But it is a trap. Psychologists call this the illusion of competence. You recognize the material so you think you understand it. But recognition is not memory. Real memory requires retrieval. This is where experts train differently. Instead of rereading, they constantly ask one question. What is the pattern here? Not the details, the pattern. Surgeons do this constantly. When a patient enters the hospital with symptoms, novices see chaos. Fever, pain, rapid heartbeat, confusion, random symptoms. Experienced doctors see something else. A pattern, an illness script. Suddenly, the chaos collapses into a single mental model. Sepsis, stroke, diabetic crisis, one pattern. Dozens of symptoms compressed. This drastically reduces cognitive load. Psychologist George Miller discovered something interesting. Working memory can only hold about 7 pieces of information at once. Try to memorize 20 facts. Your brain crashes. But compress those 20 facts into 3 patterns and suddenly it becomes easy. Experts are not memorizing more information. They are compressing information better. This is the neural pattern trick. But here is where it gets interesting. Experts do not just recognize patterns. They build them intentionally. Most students consume information passively. Experts construct neural frameworks. Instead of asking, what facts do I need to memorize? They ask what structure organizes this information. History becomes cause and effect chains. Biology becomes interacting systems. Economics becomes incentive patterns. Physics becomes relationships of forces. Once the structure exists, new information attaches automatically. Think of it like building shelves before storing books. Without shelves, books pile on the floor. Messy, hard to find, easy to forget. But with structure, everything fits. This is exactly how the brain works. But here is the problem though. Even with patterns and structure, memory still fades. Fast, your brain is a leaky bucket. Experts solve this with the third trick. Chapter 3, experts create neural friction. This sounds strange, but difficulty actually improves memory. Psychologist Robert Bjork calls this desirable difficulty. The harder your brain works to retrieve information, the stronger the memory becomes. Easy learning is weak learning. Hard learning is permanent learning. This is why experts constantly test themselves. Not after studying, during studying. Medical students do thousands of practice questions. Law students argue cases. Pilots run simulations. Language learners practice speaking immediately. Why? Because struggle activates the brain error correction system. When you try to recall something and fail, your brain highlights the mistake. That error becomes a biological sticky note. Your brain says, this matters, remember it. A famous experiment by Karpik and Roediger proved this. Students were divided into two groups. Group 1 reread material 4 times. Group 2 read once and then tested themselves repeatedly. 1 week later, the testing group remembered far more information, even though they studied less. Because retrieval builds stronger neural connections, experts intentionally create these retrieval moments. They close the book, they ask questions. They explain concepts out loud. They draw diagrams from memory. If they cannot explain it, they do not understand it. But here is the thing. Even with retrieval, even with neural patterns, there is still a massive memory problem. Your brain forgets most information within days, unless you solve the final piece. Chapter 4. Experts synchronize memory with the forgetting curve. Your brain is constantly deleting information, not because it is broken, because it is efficient. Psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered this. He mapped how quickly memory fades. After 1 day, you forget more than half of what you learned. After a week, most of it disappears, unless something interrupts the process. That interruption is spaced repetition. Review information right before you forget it, and the memory strengthens dramatically. Review it again later, and it strengthens again. Each review makes the memory more stable. Well, eventually, it becomes permanent. Experts use algorithms for this. Medical students use spaced repetition systems. Language learners review vocabulary with timed intervals. But the principle is simple. Instead of cramming, they schedule memory reinforcement. Short reviews, perfect timing, minimal effort. Even 5 minutes per day can outperform hours of cramming. Because memory is not about time, it is about timing. But here is the real secret. Experts combine all 4 methods at once. Pattern recognition, neural compression, active retrieval, spaced repetition. When these systems work together, learning accelerates dramatically. Concepts stick, information organizes itself. Memory becomes efficient, almost automatic. But here is the problem though. Even if you use all these methods, most people still learn slowly because they are still consuming information the wrong way. They are collecting facts instead of building mental models. And that mistake alone is why some people learn 10 times faster than everyone else. That is exactly what the next video explains. The hidden mental model system that elite thinkers use to master complex subjects incredibly fast. Watch that video next.